Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, it is good afternoon, and it is feels a bit funny, but yes, it is. Well, right now it's 22 degrees and sunny. We're streaming live from Brisbane, Australia. And if you joined into this late edition, it's because today is our print day, so with few things happening this morning. Well, right now, let's get into the news for today, and let's take a look at what's happening. First of all, let's go to Victoria.
I signed up to a national plan to vaccinate our nation, not a national plan to vaccinate Sydney. We have seen hundreds of thousands of vaccines that should have come and should now be in the arms of Victorians going into Sydney, into GP practices and into New South Wales. Now, I have been very clear all along the way. Some extra allocations, well, we don't begrudge that. Sydney are in a very difficult set of circumstances. But they were known. They were announced. This was not announced. This was done without anyone knowing. And the Commonwealth have got caught doing it. So it needs to stop. That's the first thing. And secondly, there needs to be a make good. There needs to be a reckoning where additional doses come to Victoria. I'll leave the Premiers of Queensland and West Australia to speak for what they think should happen. But there's something like 340,000 doses that have not come to Victoria that ought to have. That would mean we were closer to 70%. It would mean we were closer to 80%. It would mean we were closer to ending these lockdowns. So you can see a sense of frustration, and I'm sure in others a sense of anger. I did not sign up, and no Victorian signed up to a national plan to vaccinate Sydney. And whilst I've been very clear, the extra allocations that were given to them, known and announced and above board and clearly transparent, that was a good thing. We didn't begrudge them that. But let's be clear, we're not talking about those doses. We're talking about otherwise secret arrangements that are just not right. They need to stop, and there needs to be additional supplies provided to Victoria and other states who have missed out. That's as constructive and as clear as I can be. Getting angry about it won't fix it. Only the Commonwealth Government can fix it, and I would anticipate Minister Hunt, who's got quite a lot to say, quite often, had a lot to say last year, for instance. I would hope that he would sit and answer all your questions about how this has unfolded and how he's going to remedy it. Because I don't begrudge any other state getting their fair share, but that's predicated on us getting our fair share. And, you know, we are a nation, and the national plan, which we helped write and which we've been absolutely 100% faithful to, and that won't change, the national plan is predicated on us all moving together. Now, some don't like to see this as a race, but a race it surely is. What I didn't know was that Premier Berejiklian's in a sprint while the rest of us are supposed to do some sort of egg and spoon thing. No, we want our fair share. These allocations, which are totally unfair and were under the table, need to stop, and we need to get a make good. We need to get those doses that we didn't get fast-tracked to us.
Oh, wow. Is he upset or is he upset? Well, right now, he's got a good reason for that. But looking at New South Wales, let's take a look at what is actually happening there.
Now, reporter Alison Zhao joins me now from Sydney. Alison, there have been 40 deaths in the last week in New South Wales. How concerned are health authorities?
The Premier says that the key to seeing lower deaths, Gemma, is getting more people vaccinated to protect themselves against this virus. And today we've seen these case numbers remain stubbornly high, with 1,220 new cases reported. And there is increasing concern about regional areas, especially the Central Coast, where 22 new cases were reported, and also Western New South Wales, where 27 new cases were diagnosed. And today we've also heard the sad news that 8 more people have passed away from this virus, bringing the total number of fatalities from the state's Delta outbreak to 139. So these deaths are increasing in number over the last few days and weeks. And today, of those 8 deaths, 6 of them were unvaccinated, and 1 person had received 1 dose of the vaccine and 1 other person had been fully vaccinated. But those deaths also include a woman in her 70s from Dubbo, and she is the second Indigenous person to pass away from this Delta outbreak. There was also a man who acquired his infection at an aged care facility at Preston's, and also another man who passed away in his home, and his death has been referred to the coroner. But the Premier says that she hasn't seen any modelling to talk about what number of deaths are likely to be expected in New South Wales over the coming weeks. And of course that Burnett Institute modelling, which we saw yesterday, didn't touch on deaths at all. That was only about cases, hospitalisations and intensive care patients. But the Premier did say to people that they should get vaccinated to protect themselves against death. So let's take a listen to what she had to say.
The biggest protection against being in hospital and against dying is getting vaccinated. And the more protection our community has, the higher rates of vaccination we have, obviously the lower number of deaths. And obviously last year, without the vaccine, when Victoria had their outbreak, they lost hundreds and hundreds of people. And we haven't seen that yet in New South Wales because of the vaccine. So the vaccine is our greatest protection. And I just urge everybody to come forward and get vaccinated.
Yeah, so Alison, how is the state tracking on vaccination rates?
Gemma, the state has reached 74% of the eligible population having received their first dose of the vaccine. But the warning from the Chief Health Officer, Dr. Kerry Chant, was that she really wanted to see more people over 70 and more people over 50 having had both their shots. So although the rate of vaccination in the over 70 age group is quite high, with over 90% of that age group having received their first dose, what Dr. Chant wants to see is all of those people having been fully vaccinated. But today, the Premier did call out those LGAs of concern, where she says that people have gone out in droves to go and get vaccinated, and some of those areas of concern have seen their vaccination rate reach 80% of that population having received their first dose. So those areas are Blacktown, Camden and Parramatta. So the Premier did praise those areas. We also heard from the Director of Indigenous Health at St Vincent's Hospital, who urged people in Aboriginal communities to really not be scared of the unknown when it comes to the vaccine, and really go out and protect themselves against COVID-19. And we did hear from the Chief Health Officer, who said that her goal was to see the state reach 90% of the population fully vaccinated, and also that she wanted to see at least 80% of the eligible population having received at least their first dose by early next week. So let's take a listen to what Dr. Chant had to say.
I'm going to need 2 weeks to really see the impact. But clearly the models, and we all have to use the best available information, shows that they will have had an effect. But I'm actually very greedy. I just want those communities to continue to go forth and get vaccinated. I want them to continue to go forth. I want those communities as protected as we can. They have borne the brunt of this, and for me, we need to even redouble our efforts.
So there you go, redoubling that effort, and there goes, and this point about the vaccine and the amount of vaccine going to New South Wales, and of course everyone's in a race, sort of, and as he mentioned that it should not be a race, it should be, everything should be according to the plan that everyone agreed to. Well, right now, let's take a look at Queensland. Primus, we're ready to go. Yep.
3.33% have had at least 1 dose, and 34.75%. All right, good morning Queensland, and in some excellent news today, it's a
Well, very sad to say we can't seem to get that stream going at this point in time. We'll try it via another method in a minute as well. Well, right now, let's go to Canberra and take a look at what's happening there.
We've got 19 new cases overnight, 13 linked to current exposure sites or identified close contacts, with 6 still under investigation. Pleasingly, 11 of today's cases have been in quarantine in their entire infectious period. 6 spent part of their infectious period in the community, and there are 2 that are still under further investigation. In further good news, the number of people in hospital has dropped. We now have 8 hospitalised, with 1 remaining in intensive care requiring ventilation. Testing numbers increased significantly yesterday to nearly 3,500. This is a big increase that we're really pleased to see, and we thank everyone for coming forward to get tested. So a reminder that you do need to come forward for testing if you have any symptoms or you have been in any of the exposure sites at the times that are listed on the website. We update our exposure sites at least twice a day, and we do ask people who've been in those locations at those times to come forward for testing. This helps us have a really good understanding of where the virus is in our community. On the vaccination front, yesterday we set a new record for the number of vaccinations within an ACT government, within our 2 clinics, more than 3,000 doses administered. It's a record day of vaccination for ACT government clinics. We are now at 71.4% of the 344,000 ACT residents aged 16 plus with their first dose. So that's about 246,000 of the 344,000 who are 16 plus who've had that first dose. We have 47.6% with a second dose, and that is around 164,000 Canberrans aged 16 years or older. Our city has a population of 431,000. That means today there are still 185,000 Canberrans without any vaccination at all, and 267,000 who are not fully vaccinated. This means we are still several months away.
Canberra is several months away, and right now let's join our Premier once again. Sorry for that little disruption happening there.
All right, good morning Queensland, and in some excellent news today, it's a double donut day, so 0 cases, which is fantastic. So well done Queensland, keep that up. So we have 18 active cases. We now have, yesterday we had 12,649 tests, so that's good news. So what we are seeing is that people are getting tested, so that's great. If you have any symptoms, please remember to do that. Yesterday we had 18,092 vaccines by Queensland Health. We now have, of eligible Queenslanders, 53.33% have had at least 1 dose, and 34.75% of eligible Queenslanders are fully vaccinated. And you might remember yesterday we were talking about the walk-ins at Logan. Can I say excellent news there? We had 934 walk-ins, which is fantastic. And last night I convened a meeting with, along with Dr Young and the Deputy Commissioner, we had a meeting with a whole range of multicultural community leaders, and their clear message to us is that they want to absolutely engage with their communities to get vaccinated, which is fantastic, and you can see the results of that, where we're getting people in Logan coming in, families from a whole range of different multicultural communities and getting vaccinated. So thank you, thank you, thank you, and we're going to see a lot more of that over the coming days and weeks. So our vaccination program is ramping up, and today we're at the Brisbane Entertainment Centre, or other people call it Boondle, and I really want to thank everybody for getting this up so quickly. This afternoon we'll be having about, my understanding, about 200 police will be coming through to get vaccinated. Mary just advised me some of the boarders from St Peter's are coming in to get vaccinated, and then they're booked out for the next couple of days. So if you are living on the north side of Brisbane, this is a great opportunity for you to come here and get vaccinated. So log on to the Queensland Health website. We will be able to do 1,500 vaccinations per day here. It'll ramp up to 3,000 vaccinations per day next week, and we can scale up to do 6,000 doses a day. There is ample parking here. It's all set up. It's a wonderful venue, just like we have at the Convention Centre in Brisbane, which is going extremely well. So if you're on the north side of Brisbane, this is the place for you to come. So we will be seeing more pop-up clinics. We've got community outreach happening. And we also had a mobile clinic van that started up yesterday in Yarrabilba, which is great. So we're actually trialling different things across the board. Now, I want to just mention to Queenslanders that Queensland Health currently has about 80 vaccination centres open across the state. Now, over the next 2 months, of course, we mentioned that we've got a new mass vaccination centre starting up in Cairns. We're going to have mobile pop-up clinics. We're going to have that mobile van that started in Yarrabilba, an advertising campaign encouraging Queenslanders to get vaccinated. And of course, we're going to be sending out text messages to Queenslanders. Now, we do that during when we're in natural disasters. We have that capability to do that through our Disaster Management Committee. We're going to be sending out text messages to people to be able to tell you where your closest vaccination centre is, whether it's a vaccination centre, a pharmacy or a GP. So this is added information to get Queenslanders vaccinated. Now, can I say, you know, we are very concerned about what's happening in New South Wales and Victoria, and now Queensland is your window of opportunity to get vaccinated. It is absolutely important. I know a lot of people are having conversations in their workplaces, at home, in shopping centres. It is absolutely important. Now is the time to get vaccinated. We also have Trent here from the Pharmacy Guild. He'll be talking to you about how you can go to your local pharmacy and get vaccinated. We also know that the AMA is very supportive of the vaccination program. So my message today is don't delay, get vaccinated. There are a lot of places for you to go across Queensland. Don't hesitate, because we are seeing what's happening in New South Wales. Massive cases, numbers are increasing. ICU and hospitals are being stretched. We want to make sure that we have this window of opportunity to get as many Queenslanders vaccinated as possible before the Delta virus gets here. I think everyone knows that it is going to be impossible to keep this out forever. We need to do everything we can to prepare our population to get vaccinated. So I can't stress to you, this is so urgent. It is almost. It's almost a plea to Queenslanders. Please come forward and get vaccinated. Tell your friends. We're engaging as many communities as we possibly can, and of course, where those areas have had some lower vaccination rates than the rest of the state, we are doing targeted vaccination programs for them as well. So I'll hand over to Dr. Young. Thanks.
So, good morning. So, excellent news. No cases in the community nor in hotel quarantine. So, 0 cases, which is fantastic. And I thank...
So 0 cases, well done Queensland, and of course Dr. Jeanette Young and Premier, as she mentioned yesterday, that she spoke to about 100 multicultural community leaders, and happy to report I was on that meeting as well, as you can see me up there, and we made our points across as well, and the message from the Premier to us is to reach out to our community and promote that everyone needs to go and get that vaccination. What she's talking about there is what's happening in Victoria and New South Wales. And that could be happening here. So that's why our time is now to get vaccinated now, before the cases start coming here, which will happen. Someone will cross the border and it will once again start here. So she mentioned yesterday, and that's what she is saying, and that's what she spoke to us about. And there were things that we made in our point as well. And she wants us to, spread that message out in the community about getting vaccinated, because, as she mentioned, it's almost a plea from her. Well, right now it's time to go to our daily India report. And with that, let's welcome Ankita.
Welcome to the Daily India report that brings you glimpses of the changing India and the growing engagement of the Indian diaspora with India. In our first story, a global survey ranks Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi at the top in approval ratings, ahead of even the President of USA, Chancellor of Germany and the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. A global survey has given Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi the highest approval ratings among top global leaders. Modi is ahead of leaders of 12 major countries, including the US, the UK, Canada, Germany and Brazil. The ruling Bharatiya Janata Party sees this as an endorsement by the people of the policies of the government. According to the data collected by Morning Consult Political Intelligence, Modi's approval ratings rose to 70% on August 31st, ahead of US President Joe Biden and German Chancellor Angela Merkel. In May 2021, during the second wave of the COVID-19 pandemic, ratings for Modi had touched its lowest since the ranking started in 2019. At that time, Modi's approval ratings had gone down to 63%. The daily global survey data is based on a 7-day moving average of all adults in a given country with a margin of error of between plus minus 1 to 3%. Surveys are weighted in each country by age, gender, region and in certain countries education breakdowns based on official government sources. In the United States, surveys are also weighted by race and ethnicity. India's para-shuttler Krishna Nagar clinched the gold in men's singles badminton on the last day of the Tokyo Paralympics. India made history by winning 19 medals for the first time in the history of the Paralympics. Indian para-athletes are bringing back 5 gold, 8 silver and 6 bronze medals. India has created history at the Tokyo Paralympics with the contingent bringing home a record 19 medals. It is India's best ever tally in a single edition of the Paralympics. Cumulatively, over 11 Paralympic Games between 1968 and 2016, India had earlier collected only 12 medals. On the final day in Tokyo, India clinched 2 medals, a gold and a silver in badminton, finishing 24th among 162 nations. Congratulating para-athletes on their unprecedented success, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi said every member of Indian contingent is a champion and a source of inspiration. Afghanistan resistance forces in the northeastern region allege that Pakistan's spy agency ISI chief is in Kabul and is helping the Taliban take over the country. As fighting continues to rage in Panjshir in Afghanistan, the resistance forces have alleged that Pakistan's spy agency Inter-Services Intelligence is training and backing the Taliban. Resistance sources reportedly said that Pakistan ISI Chief Lieutenant General Faiz Hamid was in Kabul primarily to oversee the Taliban's war against those holding out and accused Pakistan of actively supporting the Taliban with drone-fired rockets and drone eyes in the sky. Ahmad Masood, the chief of the resistance forces in the northeastern province of Panjshir, said the presence of ISI chief was a clear sign of Pakistan's intervention in Afghan affairs. Yet, in a significant development hours later, Masood stated his readiness to cease fighting and start negotiations if the Taliban leaves the province. Earlier, Taliban forces had claimed they had fought their way into the provincial capital of Panjshir after securing the surrounding districts. Senior Taliban leader Mullah Abdul Ghani Baradar has met UN Under Secretary General for Humanitarian Affairs, Mr. Martin Griffiths, in Kabul. Griffiths said the UN will continue its support and cooperation with Afghanistan. The biggest farmers' union in India have called for a country-wide strike on September 27th, saying they will not relent unless their demands are met. Farmers' umbrella body in India, Sanyukt Kisan Morcha, has given a call for country-wide strike on September 27th in protest against the 3 contentious farm laws that were enacted in 2020. The Kisan Mahapanchayat of union leaders are adamant not to withdraw until their demands are met, saying they are ready for a long struggle for years to come. The union also announced that now United Kisan Morcha will be formed in every state and district of the country. The farmer leaders said that the Mahapanchayat will also prove that the agitation has the support of all castes, religions, states, classes, small traders and all sections of the society. Kerala state of India is now struck with the confirmed case of Nipah virus. The central government has rushed medical teams to the state to provide support and contain the spread. A 12-year-old boy died due to Nipah virus infection at a hospital in India's Kerala state, triggering fear of a possible outbreak of another deadly virus, even as the state is still struggling to contain the second wave of the COVID-19 pandemic. State Health Minister Veena George said all 3 samples taken from the boy were found to be positive for Nipah virus by the National Institute of Virology. At least 18 close contacts, mainly relatives and health workers, of the boy and 150 secondary contacts were identified and quarantined. Sensing urgency in the matter, the federal government rushed a team of the National Centre for Disease Control to provide technical support to the state. The Nipah virus, which is spread by the saliva of fruit bats, was first reported in May 2019 from Kochi district of Kerala. It later spread to the adjacent district. Indian travellers are conditionally allowed to travel to Canada by going through a third country. Indians can now fly to Canada if they stop over at a third country and get an RT-PCR test done. The Canada government issued an advisory that direct flights from India remain suspended until September 21, 2021. However, during that period, passengers who travel to Canada from India via an indirect route will need to obtain a pre-departure negative COVID-19 molecular test result from a third country before continuing their journey to Canada. There are other stipulations for travellers who have previously tested positive for COVID-19, and those details may be obtained from the website of the Canadian government or their embassies. Also, it must be noted that Covishield is the only vaccine that is accepted in Canada. Those travelling with unvaccinated children aged under 12 have been permitted entry to Canada without quarantine restrictions. But children aged 12 to 17 and dependent children aged 18 or older will be subject to a 14-day quarantine. The United Arab Emirates has announced a major plan to stimulate its economy and liberalize residency norms. In a bid to overhaul its finances and attract foreign residents, the United Arab Emirates has announced a major plan to stimulate its economy and liberalize stringent residency laws for foreigners. The country plans to launch 50 new economic initiatives to boost the country's competitiveness, including putting $1.36 billion into industrial development. The country also seeks to double its economy in the next decade through major trade agreements with countries like India, Turkey and United Kingdom. The Gulf state has launched several measures over the past year to attract investment and foreigners to help the economy recover from the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. UAE Minister of State for Advanced Technology, Sarah Al Amairi, said their plan for the next 50 years is to become a global player across different industries. Gopi Chand and Tamanna Bhatia star in the Telugu sports action film C.T. Mar that was postponed twice on 2nd April and 3rd September will finally hit the silver screen on 10th September 2021.
ఒక ఊరి నుంచి 8 మంది ప్లేయర్స్ సార్. మీకు రూల్స్ తెలుసు కదా?
రూల్స్ ప్రకారం పంపిస్తే ఆడొస్తారు సార్. రూట్ లెవెల్ నుంచి ఆలోచించి పంపిస్తే పేపర్లో వస్తారు. త్వరలో నేషనల్ కబడ్డీ ఉంది, అందులో గెలిస్తే దేశం మొత్తం తిరిగి చూస్తుంది. అప్పుడు మన కష్టం గురించి చెప్తే
Telugu sports action film CT Mar starring Gopi Chand and Tamanna will finally make it to the silver screen on 10th September. It has been twice postponed on 2nd April and then recently on 3rd September. Producers have now picked the date of 10th September to coincide with the festival of Vinayak Chaviti in Telugu belt called Vinayak Chaturthi or Ganesh Chaturthi in North India.
ఇక్కడ ఆడపిల్లలు వేసుకునే బట్టల లెంత్ బట్టి క్యారెక్టర్ డిసైడ్ అయిపోతుంది.
మన దేశంలో మగాళ్ళు కనీసం 60 ఏళ్ళు బతికి చచ్చిపోతున్నారు. ఆడాలు కూడా 60 ఏళ్ళు బతుకుతున్నారు, కానీ 20 ఏళ్ళకే చచ్చిపోతున్నారు.
Lead actors Gopi Chand and Tamanna Bhatia both play the role of Kabaddi coaches. In the fictional story on Women Kabaddi team, the trailer released recently shows how women athletes give their best to make the country proud. Gopi Chand essays the role of a captain of the team. The action block is fantastic and the blend of sports and fights have been maintained well. For over a year now during the pandemic, the team rigorously shot for the film at various places in India and wrapped up the shoot around March 2021. COVID-19 led to the continuous postponement of release for the film.
కలాం గారు కలలు కనమన్నారు, పగటి కలలు కాదు.
The cast also includes Digangana Suryavanshi, Bhumika Chawla, Apsara Rani, Rao Ramesh and Posani Krishna Murli.
ధైర్యం అనే తోడు. साउथ का सट्टा मार के नहीं, सिटी मार के दिखाएंगे.
That's all for this bulletin of Daily India Report. Thank you for watching.
Thank you very much, Ankita, and the team Gupta from Delhi for that Daily India Report. And remember that Daily India Report is brought to you every day from Tuesday through till Saturday. Well, right now it's time to take a look at some of the functions and events that might be taking place in and around Brisbane. And ladies and gentlemen, that's about all we have time for in this bulletin. And remember that tomorrow we are back on with the 9 a.m. daily news report and the daily India report. And at 10 a.m. we will have the real estate update with Usa Chandra, and she's got some very important updates for you tomorrow. So looking forward to seeing you all tomorrow at 9 a.m. for the daily India report and our news update, and of course at 10 a.m. For the real estate update with Usa Chandra. Until then, it's goodbye from me. And of course, if you haven't had that vaccination yet, please do so ASAP.